I'm quite a fan of these German chip carving knives, so for an experiment, I'm going to try to make some out of this old saw blade. I'm cutting the saw blade into strips. Now you could use an angle grinder for that, but I like to use my plasma cutter. I ripped pretty much the entire blade into strips because I think it's going to take me more than one try to get this right. Now hardened steel is pretty hard to work with, so I'm going to soften all this by heating it up to red hot in the wood stove. So I just buried my strips of metal in the ash bucket to let it cool down really slowly. I'm surprised the paint is still on there, but with them heated up and cooled down slowly, now all the hardness is removed, which means I can bend these relatively easily. The next step is to grind it into roughly a knife shape. I started to wonder if it was really high carbon steel, so I did a quick spark test, and I'm pretty sure it is. I'm just smoothing out some of the grinding marks with this crummy little wet wheel grinder that I found at a yard sale. Now to get the hardness back, I need to heat it to a dull red hot and dip it in water to cool it down fast. I'm just trying to get it closer to a tang to get that part red hot as well. I think that's good enough. Now I also just hardened this test blade, and that in theory might be so brittle that it'll break if I bend it. So let's try that out. Oh, well, there it is. But it did take quite a bit of bending. Given that this thing wouldn't actually snap, I suspect this is actually not all that hard, so I'm not even going to try to temper it. I'm just going to polish it up now. I'm doing the final sharpening by rubbing it on a leather strop with some abrasive compound on it. So I can shave with it, but the question is, how long will it hold that sharpness? Now the thickness of this thing is about 1.5 millimeters, which corresponds to about the thickness of the kerf of this 6.5-inch blade. I need to tweak the shape of that to precisely fit into that cut. I'm just drilling through the holes in the tang to locate the rivet holes in the handle. My rivets are just nails that I softened by heating up and cooling them slowly. Brass rod would be better, but I didn't have any handy. So that's the original, and here's my copy. And it feels about the same. So I started making a second one of these, and I think this one's a bit closer to the original, except I made a really dumb mistake. I cut this part off the wrong way, because that way, when this pushes this way, that's going to come out of the wood like this, whereas really it needs to be in here like this, so that when you push on here, this side presses in. So this one, unfortunately, is junk. I mostly use chip carving knives like this to round and chamfer edges of wood, especially in the corners. I don't have much use for swords or daggers, so I figure by making a chip carving knife I'll end up with something that I'll actually use.